Hey everyone, how's it going? Sotharan here, and welcome to my Feral Druid rotation and talent guide video. So I ended up doing my Guardian Druid video, and I ended up wanting to try out the Feral spec, and I've been playing it for a little bit now, and I actually really enjoy it. It's a really fun spec, so I wanted to do a video on the rotation that I've been using, the talents I've been using, to help out people that might not have any idea of what to do or if they need any help with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over the talents that I've been using. The first one I've been using is the Lunar Inspiration. Moonfire is now usable while in cat form, generates 1 combo point, deals damage based on attack power, and costs 30 energy. So I really like this ability. It's a really nice thing just to add into your rotation to generate another combo point for you, and especially if you're overloading in energy, it's just a great thing to use. The fact that it's a ranged ability as well allows you to cast it while going in. And if you want, you can use your prowl ability beforehand. But personally, I just like this ability a lot more than the other two. And I like the option of being able to cast Moonfire, so I'm actually able, because it actually does quite a bit of damage. And it's just a nice little dot to have, and also warring that combo point. It's a pretty nice thing. The second one that I've been using is the Displacer Beast. So what this does is it teleports you to 20 yards forward. Activating cat form, increase your movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds. So I really like this ability because it allows me to actually jump ahead and transform into my cat form. So if there's any reason as to why I'm not already up ahead, if there's any reason I need to get away from something, anything like that, because while you're in cat form, you actually have increased movement speed by 30%. So this is really nice because when you pop this, you can actually move up to 80% faster while in your cat form. So it's also a really good thing to use for getaway. I just really like it because it's actually able to be used in a lot of different circumstances. And it's also nice to be able to jump to different places, especially in a raid or a dungeon, because you're allowed to separate your DPS a lot quicker, and especially if you're not in range of your Skull Bash charge. The level 45 talent that I've been using is Guardian Affinity, and the only reason I've been actually using this talent is just to reduce the damage taken by 10%. I never use my bear form rarely when I'm damaging unless I'm about to die or any reason, but I actually like this a lot because it reduces all my incoming damage by 10%, and like that's always good to have on a DPS, especially a DPS that doesn't have a lot of self heals except for popping out of form, which there is a couple other self heals that I use with my talent rotation, but I'll go into that more. But I like this just because it allows me to stay in my cat form for longer. The level 60 talent I've been using as well is the Mighty Bash. I'm using it as an interrupt ability and just a CC that I can use against things. Other than that, it's Mass Entanglement and Typhoon I don't really like. I think Mighty Bash is a lot better for a melee class, and also that you don't have an actual like very good interrupt as a cat, like the Feral. I'm just going to call it Cat Druid, make it easy. So this is really helpful, I find. The level 75 one I've been using is Savage Roar, and I picked this one just because it is a really strong ability, and it's actually in my rotation a lot because it is a very strong ability. It requires 40 energy, it's 1 to 5 combo points, finishing moves that grant 25% increased damage to your cat form attacks for their full duration, and it lasts longer per combo point. So as you can see, the more combo points you use, the longer this ability stays on. It can actually stay on for quite a while. And increasing 25% damage to all your abilities for 24 seconds is quite a lot when you think about it. So I definitely recommend picking this one. The level 90 talent I've been using is Jagged Wounds. Your Rip, Rake, and Thrash abilities deal the same damage as normal, but in 33% less time. Pretty much what this does is all the bleeds you're going to be using in your rotation now do more damage over, well, not more damage over time, they do their damage more quickly, which improves your DPS, which is really helpful because you're going to want to be using, you're going to be going through these abilities a lot, and you're also going to be refreshing them a lot with your rotation, so it kind of speeds it up and also allows you to deal more damage while doing your rotation. And the last ability I've been using is probably one of my favorite. I actually like this ability. Casting Healing Touch causes your next 2 melee abilities to deal 40% increased damage for their full duration. So I love this ability because one of the special abilities you have as a cat Druid is Predatory Swiftness. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to make your next Healing Touch, Entangling Roots, or Rebirth instant, free and castable in all forms. So you're actually able to use this, and when this procs, you can use your Healing Touch in combat, giving yourself Blood Talons, increasing your DPS for the next 2 abilities you use. So it's a really strong ability, and Predatory Swiftness usually pops quite a lot with your amount of attack, so it actually increases your damage quite a bit by proccing Blood Talons quite a lot. So after that, I want to go over my opening sequence and then the different types of single target and multi-target that I go through. Because being this druid and having a lot of different actual abilities, the rotation isn't very hard, but it takes a lot of practice to do the opening sequences and actually be able to do a lot of the things you're able to do and get top DPS, just like with any class. So I want to go over my opening sequence I use with these talents just to make it a little easier for people that are trying to do this, because it does seem like a lot when you start playing this character. I did definitely felt a little overwhelmed when I started, but I'm definitely liking it a lot now. So right before you do the pull, what I always recommend is you want to cast your Healing Touch to activate your Blood Talons right away. This just makes it nice and easy, so right before you're about to pull an encounter, if that the raid ready signal comes up, anything at all, you're going to want to use your Healing Touch right before you get into combat to proc your Blood Talons. It's the first thing I always do. The next thing I usually do is I'll use my Prowl ability to go into Stealth. This is just nice because it allows me to move around, allows me to like hide and be in stealth mode, that kind of thing. It just allows me to get closer and ready to strike. I usually recommend definitely getting into this as much as you possibly can, as quickly as you can. The other reason why is because what I usually like to do is when I start up, I'll prowl, and then the first thing I'll do is rake. Raking the target for 25,000 bleed damage and additional 129,000 damage over 10 seconds. Reduces the target movement speed by 50%. So this is actually really nice because you can rake them and they're really slowed. And if while you're stealth, the rake also stuns the target for 4 seconds and deal 100% increased damage. So going into prowl and then raking the target is amazing to use because you'll actually be producing a lot more damage. So I definitely recommend that you're going to want to prowl and then rake as soon as you possibly can when the tank is ready. At that point, you're going to have one combo point ready to go. And at this point, you're actually going to want to use your Savage Roar to give yourself that 8-second boost. This 8-second boost can increase your damage by 25% to all your cat form attacks. So just using this right away is basically going to proc your abilities and allow you to do a lot more damage right at the very beginning. The next thing I usually use is my Berserk ability, reducing the cost of all cat form abilities by 50%, increasing maximum energy by 50 for 15 seconds. This ability here has one of your strongest abilities to use just because it's pretty much all your DPS. It's your DPS cooldown that you want to be using all the time just because it reduces the cost of all your abilities and gives you more resource to use. So I recommend using this ability as much as you possibly can. And you also want to be using this ability in this first opening rotation with your Tiger's Fury. Instantly restores 60 energy, increases the damage of all your attacks by 15% for the full duration and lasts 8 seconds. What I usually do is I'll proc my Berserk and then proc my Tiger's Fury as soon after my Savage Roar is placed. At this point, I'll be using my Ashmane's Frenzy, which is your ancient artifact weapon ability. And what this does is unleashes Ashmane's Frenzy, clawing your target 15 times over 3 seconds for 85,000 physical damage and an additional 255,000 bleed damage over 6 seconds, and awards 3 combo points. So this actually awards quite a lot of combo points, as you can see, but it does have a 1.5 minute cooldown. So I usually recommend using this in your opening sequence, not in the single rotation. This ability you're going to be using as much as you possibly can when you're low on combo points, but with the high cooldown of it, you're just going to kind of want to sneak it in whenever the cooldown is off. The next thing I usually like to do as well is use the Moonfire ability with the Lunar Inspiration, just to give myself another combo point and just to kind of help out with the single rotation that I'll be doing. After that, I will use my Shred ability. And this is just like your normal ability. It causes 50,000 physical damage to the target, deals 20% increased damage against bleeding targets. And one thing you're going to notice with this class as well is the target's always going to have bleed on them. So this is kind of your go-to ability. Just because it's actually, you're always going to be having bleed on them. So it's a really good ability to have, especially to gain combo points. And while stealth, Shred deals 50% increased damage and has double the chance to critically strike. So it's also a pretty good ability to use Prowl, but I usually recommend using Rake as your first ability. Once you've hit the 5 combo points, the next thing you're going to want to do is cast your Rip. Just because, as you can see, there's a finishing move that causes bleed damage over 16 seconds. At 5 points is 357,000 damage at the damage level I have right now, which is a crap ton. So it's a really good ability that you're actually going to be wanting to use as much as you can, and that's the opening rotation that I've been using right there. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just like I said, it takes a little practice. But now I'm going to go into the single target rotation that I've been using, that think is probably like it's personally what I've been using and I think is really well. But like I've said in the end of my other videos, if you guys have any input or anything on my talents, any builds, anything like that, feel free to let me know. But the thing I've been doing for a single target rotation is the first thing you want to do is maintain your Savage Roar as often as possible if you take this by subbing in it with combo points. The other thing you want to do is maintain your Rake ability as well as much as you can to keep a bleed effect constantly going. The other thing as well is you want to be maintaining Rip on your target at the whole time. So what you're going to be wanting to have is you're going to constantly want to have your Savage Roar and your two main bleed abilities constantly on the target, and you want to constantly be refreshing these abilities. The other thing you want to be maintaining on the target as well is your Moonfire ability. So what I usually do is when I start up, like I said with the opening sequence, this is pretty much the exact same thing I was just saying. You want to maintain your bleeds, you want to maintain your dot, and you want to maintain your increased damage ability with your Savage Roar. You're going to be wanting to use your Tiger's Fury as much as you can, but you're going to be wanting to use it at 20% or less energy. And the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try and, if you can, sync your Ashmane's Frenzy with your Tiger Fury as closely as you can. Just because it awards you 3 combo points and also restores 60% energy. So you can use this, awarding you 3 combo points, use this to gain yourself more energy, then you can spend your combo points as if and everything like that, just so you can get off a big combo, especially if you need to maintain something, if your Savage Aura is going down, your Rip's going down, your Rake's going down, stuff like that. The other thing too is you're going to be wanting to use Shred as much as possible to build your combo points. Like I said, it's one of your main abilities you're going to be using a lot, and it also deals increased damage to bleeding targets, so if you're able to maintain your bleeds on the target, you'll be doing quite a lot of damage. And the last thing that I've been using is the ability that I've actually not had to use quite a lot, but if need be, is the Ferocious Bite, which finishing move that causes physical damage per combo point and consumes up to 25 additional energy and increased damage up to 100%. When used on targets below 25% health, Ferocious Bite will refresh the duration of your Rip on your targets. I only use this ability when my Rip or Savage Roar isn't going to end soon. This is the only time I use this ability, so that's when I say that this ability I don't use it very much, because I only use it if I don't need to use my combo points on my Savage Roar or Rip, which usually I'm spending it on them, so usually I don't really have to use it. The other thing I want to mention as well is the same thing with the Predatory Swiftness ability right here. You're going to be wanting to try and use, whenever you see this proc, you're going to keep an eye on your abilities. Whenever you see this proc, make sure to be using your Healing Touch as much as possible when this procs, so you're able to activate your Blood Talons, which will help increase your DPS as you're going. And another little input I'd like to also add is that when you have your Blood Talons up, try and use your Ashmane's Frenzy with your Blood Talons, because as you can tell, you will be doing a lot of damage with this. So I definitely recommend that if you're going to be using your Ashmane's Frenzy, try and get Blood Talons up and use one of the charges to definitely use on your Ashmane's Frenzy. So I just really quickly want to go over AoE rotation with the Cat Druid here. It's fairly simple, very simple abilities and everything like that. And then I'll just go over some of the other abilities I have here that if somebody's really new to the Feral Druid, that they might not know what these abilities do or anything like that. So when it comes to AoEing, the first thing you're going to want to do is try and maintain Rake on all the creatures that you're in combat with. This will just keep a continuous bleed effect on all of them, increasing your damage with most of your abilities. The other thing you're going to be wanting to do is Thrash, which is another AoE ability that you're able to use, but does require 50% energy, and it's an AoE bleed effect. So it is really good. Having both up at the same time is really good, just because actually it's really nice to have. You can also use your Swipe, which deals 20% increased damage against bleeding targets and awards 1 combo point. This is just an AoE Swipe. It's pretty much the equivalent of your Shred ability, just an AoE version. But in AoE situations, Swipe is definitely your best bet. Just try to maintain both your bleeds on your targets as much as you possibly can, and maintaining your Swipe as well. At this point as well, you'll be switching in to try and get your Savage Roar up, and if you possibly can, put a Rip on your main target. You're going to be wanting to basically, like, if there's like a healer in the group that you need to kill or anything like that, you're going to want to be putting the Rip on that target so you can deal the most amount of damage. And the last thing I wanted to cover real quick here was just cooldowns and the other kind of abilities that I have right here. So the first cooldown is the Tiger's Fury, like I said, which you're going to be wanting to try and sync with your Ashmane's Frenzy, which you want to sync Ashmane's Frenzy with Blood Talent. So that's why I said this is kind of a little complicated build, just because it does do a lot of damage, but you have to keep a very close eye on all your abilities to maintain all this stuff. Your Tiger's Fury, you're just going to be wanting to use whenever it's off cooldown and whenever you're low on energy, but trying to actually sync it in with these two is great. The other thing, like I said, with the cooldown, the Predatory Swiftness, when using your Healing Touch to make Blood Talons proc, is also a really good thing you want to use. The other cooldown that I went over was Berserk, and you're going to be wanting to use as much as you possibly can, and trying to sync it with your Tiger's Fury. The last ability here that I'm actually going to cover, actually there's two abilities here I'll cover, is your Survival Instincts, which reduces all damage you take by 50% for 6 seconds, max 2 charges, a 2-min recharge. It's just a nice little survival ability that you're able to use to keep yourself alive. It's just nice and easy to use. You get this little thing, little paws that go around you, and it's really nice for when like you're stuck in a damage ability, you're running low on health, all that kind of stuff. It's a really good ability to have. And the other ability is Maim, which a finishing move that causes physical damage and stuns the target. Damage and duration increase your per combo point. This ability I don't really use very often at all, to be honest. It's more like a PvP ability, I feel. Especially because I have the Mighty Bash and other DPS will be doing interrupts with me. I don't really like unless you really need to do an interrupt or anything like that, but other than that, I personally don't like it that much. I rarely use it unless I need to stun something or interrupt something, but I usually have my Mighty Bash for that. But that is all I wanted to cover for this Feral Druid build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any input or any ideas to help me out with my new Feral Druid that I've been playing here, please let me know in the comments below. As well, if you guys have any recommendations on classes that you'd like me to cover, make me do a video on, feel free to let me know as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.